Hello, it's John Heaton, and I'm going to give you my first reaction to the new Red and the Blue, which came out at midnight yesterday, and listened to quite a bit of it before I went to bed last night, and then a few more bits this morning. Only on my JBL. I haven't got a physical copy. It hasn't come to the shops here yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to buy it, to be honest, because it's pretty pricey. I mean, the vinyl is 75 quid for the triple each. And even the CD, it's a double CD, 25 quid, and it's a compilation, and I've got all the tracks already, although a lot of them have been remixed, so I might be tempted. But anyway, just before I go through my reaction, just wanted to give you some of the background to why these albums were released in the first place, because I was doing some research on this, and there was a bootleg which came out sort of mail order only in America, in New Jersey, shipped from New Jersey, called Alpha and Omega. Now, some sources say 1972, but Keith Badman in his pretty much definitive book says March the 15th, 73, so I'll go with that. It was a 2-volume set with 60 tracks on each volume. I think maybe one was released first and then the other followed. And it's weird track listing because it's all alphabetical, not chronological, and it's not quite random. But it starts off with Act Naturally, All I've Got to Do, All My Loving and I Love Her, Baby's in Black. And there's some funny choices if we go through the 60 tracks in the first volume. I'm Happy Just to Dance With You is on there, Mr. Moonlight is on there, Honey Don't is on there, and Revolution Number 1 is preferred to the Revolution single. And then, to make it even more strange, we've got 4 solo tracks mixed in with Volume 1, Bangladesh, Uncle Albert, Imagine, Maybe I'm Amazed. And then Volume 2, no less than 6 solo tracks. It Don't Come Easy, My Sweet Lord, Heart of the Country, Crippled Inside, Lovely Linda, and Wah Wah. Anyway, I think these albums sold well, and actually, if one can say such a thing, one could say one is thankful to the bootleggers for putting these out, because they pretty much prompted the Red and the Blue. So the Red and the Blue may well not have existed had it not been for these bootlegs. So, you know, obviously they're part of Beatles history now, the Red and the Blue, and everyone loves them. So that's just a bit of background. But as I say, I'm not sure if I'm going to be buying them, because I've always found it very difficult to listen to the Blue, particularly the Blue, because it's very difficult for me to hear Sgt. Pepper songs out of context, or the White Album songs out of context, or Abbey Road even out of context. So I rarely have played the Blue over the years. The Red is another matter. That works much better, and I think it succeeds in a way better than, say, Past Masters as a listening experience, because you haven't just got singles and B-sides and annoying German versions of She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand. You've actually got some golden album cuts as well. So particularly Rubber Soul is particularly well represented, and Revolver is particularly underrepresented, but they've rectified that, as we'll come to. So I'll talk about what the tracks that they've added and what I think about that, and then I'll say what I would have added at the end, although it's completely subjective and everyone's going to have a different opinion. And as far as the original track listing was concerned, I'm pretty happy with it. The only glaring omissions for me are Taxman and I Saw Her Standing There from the Red. And from the Blue, I'm not sure, as I say, it's difficult for me to talk about the Blue because it's so incongruous listening to Pepper tracks next to White Album tracks, in my opinion. But obviously not everyone's going to be happy. But of the tracks they did add, well, slightly odd choice, Roll Over Beethoven, because it's a cover, and the Red Album had always sort of prided itself on being just Lennon, McCartney and Harrison tracks. But this new Red Album has Roll Over Beethoven and You've Really Got a Hold on Me. So I guess they're kind of representative of the early Beatles sounds and the early Beatles influences on the Beatles. So in that respect, and I listened to it last night, and it's quite a good listening experience on Spotify. You know, it's all chronological. So don't have a problem with those choices particularly. I wouldn't have chosen Roll Over Beethoven or You've Really Got a Hold on Me myself, but anyway, You Can't Do That was an interesting choice from Hard Day's Night. That's been really well remixed. We'll come to the remixes in a minute. If I Needed Someone, no complaints about that choice. I'm Only Sleeping, wouldn't have gone with that one, but anyway, no complaints. Got to Get You Into My Life, a fair selection from Revolver as well. So, and Here, There and Everywhere, a good selection. On the blue, I was a bit surprised that they included Within You Without You, because it's a bit of a sort of divides opinion a bit. I know a lot of fans love it and a lot of casual fans may not love it, so it was a bit strange decision to put it on the blue, but anyway, the extra blue, should I say. Glass Onion, they've chosen from the White Album, no problem with that. I'm Your Mind from Let It Be, no problem with that, great song. Oh Darling is a natural choice from Abbey Road. I Want You, slightly less obvious choice, more of an album cut for me and quite long. And then Now and Then they've gone with at the end of the blue. What else can I say? Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you my listening experience next, and I think it flows well, the Red Album in particular. I'm not particularly married to the original track order, so it didn't bother me to have tracks interspersed. I was very glad that they included Twist and Shout on the Red, because that was another glaring omission I forgot to mention. I noticed Ringo's drumming comes to the fore on a lot of tracks, which not as that I didn't notice them before, but particularly fine drumming on I Feel Fine. And Day Tripper as well, little sort of subtle bits which I hadn't noticed before. Some good intricate bass playing from Paul and Michel, and If I Needed Someone is a revelation. They've made the guitars to literally shimmer in sunlight. You know, they sound so bright, and I'm not sure how Giles Martin achieved that, but it's a wonderful production. And it really brings to mind what a great group performance If I Needed Someone is, because Paul's playing superb bass and Lennon's kind of singing a joint lead through the verse, at least, with McCartney on the high harmony. So it's a tour de force group performance. We've talked about the cover. Obviously, we know we prefer the cover. By the way, this Indian Red doesn't have the alternate picture on the back cover, just the same one. So I don't know if that was laziness or deliberate, but I thought that was quite interesting. Now we get to the blue. So I think on the Red Album, particularly the Rubber Soul tracks, wonderfully produced, the new mixes. The Blue Album, I've got some reservations. I Am the Walrus, it's quite interesting bits I hadn't heard before, but I don't like the way they turn down the volume virtually to nothing when it goes to the slow bit before the Sitting in an English Garden. It's almost like two songs, whereas the original keeps the kind of volume up at a certain level. The ending of The Walrus is interesting. A lot you can hear the kind of juba juba, umpa a lot clearer, and sort of strings are higher in the mix. But I was disappointed that the quote from King Lear from Radio 3 broadcast September 67 is a lot less audible, particularly the last line, "The sit you down, Father, rest you," is virtually sort of disappeared from this mix. You can just about hear it right at the end, but I'm not sure why Giles chose to do that. Hey Bulldog, I compared it to the Yellow Submarine soundtrack version and I can see no improvement. In fact, I can see a slight problem in that they dip the volume virtually down to nothing so that you can hear John saying a few things at the end like, "Do you know any more?" Whereas, you know, the way to do it is they did it, what they did on the soundtrack. They keep the drums going a bit lower in the mix, but not completely low, so that you can't hear them. So I was disappointed by that. And Old Brown Shoe is my biggest complaint. On the second verse, they've done something very strange with the guitar, because you can hardly hear the first guitar line, and then it comes in for the second line, and then he starts the vocal, and then again the first answering guitar line you can hardly hear, and the second one comes in. So I'm not sure what they were doing, mucking around with the levels there. But for me, it's not quite unforgivable, because I don't have to buy this set, and I've got the old version. But if I'm going to fork out 75 quid for the vinyl or 25 quid for the CD, I don't expect mistakes like that. And that is a mistake. That's not just a matter of taste. That's just a guitar line missing. The solo in Something from the 2019 mix, which is included here, has a slight distortion at the beginning of the solo, which is, I think they might have rectified that a little bit here, but still I noticed distorted on the first couple of notes. In terms of the packaging is concerned, well, these are my CDs from 2010. As you can see, they're pretty well worn and battered. I prefer the jewel case. In terms of packaging, I prefer the double jewel case from 1993, but I don't have those. I did buy this HMV release at the time, and I think I gave the double CD to my brother for Christmas, but I kept the box, and because it had a nice booklet here, and with nice pictures and commentary from Andy Davis from Record Collector. So that was the story behind that. And then obviously I have my coloured vinyl editions, which I picked up over the years. You won't find these cheap anymore. I think I paid not too much for this one because it's not in brilliant nick. No more than 30 quid. You'd be lucky to find it for less than 60 these days. And this blue vinyl, similarly hard to find. And then just to complete my collection, I have a French copy of the blue, which has a slightly different sort of font on the Apple label as the French kind of font there, which we're used to, but the same blue background for the Apple. So I've got the Indian red on black vinyl, the French blue on black vinyl, and then I've got coloured vinyls from the UK, which were released in the late 70s. So that was that. So now I'm going to tell you what I would have picked, and I've highlighted in green where I'm in agreement with what Apple and the guys chose for the official release. As you can see, there's not a lot of overlap, and I guess there won't be if you tried it. But this was my selection, including tracks like It Won't Be Long and If I Fell, I'll Follow the Sun on the first, and I don't want to spoil the party, and because I think Beatles for Sale is woefully underrepresented. I'm looking through you. I preferred from Rubber Soul to If I Needed Someone, although that was a close call. And Your Bird Can Sing I would have picked from John as opposed to I Only Need Sleeping, and then I chose Rain as opposed to Tomorrow Never Knows, but that was a toss-up as well. And then I've gone for some sort of acoustic tracks on the second disc, apart from Hey Bulldog, and I've got a feeling sort of starting and ending the extra tracks here. I've got sort of relatively laid back tracks like Dear Prudence, Blackbird, I Will, Julia, Long, Long, Long. And I've gone for Sexy Sadie as opposed to Glass Onion, which is what they did on the official one. So just thought I'd mention another interesting bit from the Keith Badman book. Richard Perry, at the time that the Red and the Blue were released, he was talking to George Harrison, who was helping out with the Ringo album. And he was showing them the new, sides 1, 2, 3, 4. And he was looking at the fourth disc. And George said, it seems like the career took a little turn here, because it's like all of a sudden there's some great stuff, but it seems incomplete. It doesn't seem right that it should or could end there. So that was a very interesting quote from George. And also connecting on the same topic, Richard DeLalo in his book Longest Cocktail Party, the last time I saw George in his suite at the Park Lane Hotel 2 days before the August 1st, 1971 concert for Bangladesh, Madison Square Garden, he asked me what I was doing these days. Well, I've just finished writing a history book about Apple. Silence. George blinked once, looked me right in the eye and said, well, it's only just beginning. So that would be actually a nice idea. Can you imagine the Blue album as a triple, including, our favourite topic, had the Beatles stayed together for another couple of years? And can you imagine the third disc of that, including, Maybe I'm Amazed and Imagine, and anyway, we can dream on, can't we? But anyway, it was fun for me to do this video and to listen to the Red and the Blue. As I say, I'm not sure if I'm going to buy them, but thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.